Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. That was cool. Today I'm playing the CV90-105 TML, aka the COVID tank, as it has spread across the War Thunder matchmaker at around the battle rating of 9.0, just like virus. And if you think that this is a bad joke, no, this is actually what the tank currently does. It flirts the matchmaker. This is a Swedish rank 6 premium battle rating 9.0 light tank. And I personally like it, but I just don't like the experience in it. Not because the tank is bad, but because in the majority of battles you're fighting yourself and you have a lot of night battles, and that really kills the enjoyment for me personally. So I hope that in the next few days the situation will calm down and then we can get actually an accurate impression of this tank. Currently everything is wild and the battles in the background that you see are the absolute exceptions. So it can happen, it will probably happen like this in the next few days, but I cannot promise you this. So in the next few days I might then do a tank review on this tank. As a grinder, it is actually pretty good. It has the highest civil line modifier amongst tanks, and it has also a pretty good RP modifier. Also, it just is more or less a conventional tank, which makes it substantially better in contrast to the Stridswagen 103O, which still has the bugged and not polished hull aiming. So as a light tank, you have one big factor that you really need to take into account, and this is hull break. You see, this tank, I hit him, and I hit him now again directly into the gun breech. But because it's a medium tank, it's not susceptible to hull break. So at the end of the day, I just damaged him quite a lot, took the crew down quite a lot, and in return I was, hull broken. Despite it not being directly a lethal hit. And, you have to fear aircraft with rockets. You have to fear artillery strikes. You have to fear somebody hitting your tracks, your turret ring, hits that are normally not really lethal. Another factor that then is very subjective is I absolutely love how the gun looks, because if you pay close attention to it, it looks like the Panzer IV F2's gun. It's a 105mm, but it looks like the 75mm from the Panzer IV F2, and I love that. So let's talk about the tank and its raw stats. So as I said, this is a rank 6 Swedish premium light tank, sitting at a battle rating of 9.0. It has a horsepower to ton ratio of just above 20, which is certainly not bad. Also, the ground pressure feels not really that hard. So you come around and you accelerate, sometimes even to your top speed on a paved road to 70 kilometers per hour, and in reverse it's still something like 43, which is also not bad. Then in theory the transmission and the engine are in the front, but currently due to how hull brake works, it doesn't really protect you from anything like some of those tanks like the Merkava that have this feature as a sort of additional protection. Then let's talk about the gun. The 105mm CN105G2, if I'm not mistaken, this is a French design, and the reload is your average L7 experience 6.7 seconds. It's not an autoloader, so it depends on your crew. The turret rotation speed is a whopping 30 degrees per second, again for an ace crew. Gun depression -7 plus 20 degrees, which is again not bad. The armor on this tank, aside from the very drastically angled upper frontal plate, is not really great. It's 20, and it's then on the turret 35, and also in parts 20. The side armor is also very thin, sometimes even only 20 down to 10 millimeters behind the tracks and for the side. And yeah, also the roof is 20, so you can get killed easily by aircraft. I've done it myself, only with the 20mm gunfire. So the armor isn't really its strength, the mobility is okay, the firepower is actually pretty nice, and again, you're firing mostly darts, but you have also access to the DM502 hash round, to the DM12 heat of S round with 400mm of penetration. You have, so to say, a free APFSDS, the M735 APFSDS. Now here is the factor where we get a little bit into detail, because you have here 353mm of penetration with a muzzle velocity of 1501 meters per second, which is pretty cool. At 60 degrees angles of attack, you have 166mm of penetration. And this is where then the DM23 comes into play. It costs you 600 silver lines per shot, and it has a mere 337mm of penetration with a muzzle velocity of 1455 meters per second. This is worse than the quote-unquote stock M735 shell. However, versus 60 degrees angles of attack, it has 195mm of penetration. That is roughly 30mm more, and since this is much more important in the meta, you know, to not bounce off and to also penetrate at steeper angles, the raw penetration is not that important as it is the angles of attack. So the DM23 it is, you should take the majority of your shells from this, and then take a few hash rounds for a good measure in. Then there are obviously the usual tools of a light tank. You can scout, you can help random teammates to repair, you have an artillery support, and you have also a night vision device and thermal imaging. You have a laser rangefinder, and that is pretty cool. So you have a lot of tools, but you're really, really fragile. So, as I just discussed, the statistics, as you can see, they are not bad. They are more or less average. The tank reminds me of the German TAM, or the German Argentinian TAM, to be a bit more correct here. So it has to fight versus main battle tanks, and a lot of the main battle tanks that you'll fight currently, or that you will fight in the future even more, they just are faster than you, and they sometimes can absorb those shells, whereas you just don't have then the speed advantage, so you can't really outflank them. If they choose to flank, then you have a head-on fight on the flanks. So again, this is a problem how this tank was implemented. Now there are two more factors. The first of all is that currently, as said, this COVID tank, the CV90-105 tank, just floods the matchmaker, so it's mostly Sweden versus Sweden. And that is just boring. And, you know, if you put it together, you have a very good stabilizer. You have APFSDS rounds that hull breaks enemy COVID tanks, that you get hull broken wherever you get hit, and all those things combined with you fighting yourself is extreme arcade. It just takes out what makes realistic battle and absolutely utterly destroys it. I cannot stand this, okay? And on top of this, night battles. I'm not exaggerating. I had the misfortune of getting into a night battle every third to every second game. Sometimes I had 3 night battles in a row, and that absolutely kills me. It's not because the tank can't play in this environment. It's more like it's just an awful experience. Despite it having thermal imaging, night vision devices, you know, it's all cool. Especially night vision devices for the commander's optics. You know, the binoculars, that's pretty cool to have. And again, it just supplies the array of weaponry that this tank has. In addition to the artillery strike, scouting, you know, the usual stuff. It just absolutely takes out the fun for me personally. New players might really love this. New players might lose interest in this tank in probably a few days. It's a good grinding machine, it's a good tank, but where it is put in, it's not a very good environment, I'd say. Again, this is complaining on a very high level, and yet I just didn't have fun in this tank. Again, just because how it works out. Not because it's a bad tank, as I said for probably the 5th time, but because the way that it plays out. You fighting yourself, over and over again when there are 1,500 plus vehicles in War Thunder is just boring. It's okay for probably a few battles, but after this it really kills me. And I cannot stand this experience over and over again. Again, the battles that I'm showing here in the background, they are the exception. They are the best to look for. The best battles that I had where I didn't fight myself over and over again and where I just had some room to maneuver. But this is nothing that you should take for granted. That was again a hull break by hitting my tracks right at the end of the battle. Oh well, it happens. Anyways, let's have a brief look at the post-battle results to see what this tank's income is like. Again, actually pretty good Silver Line and RP modifiers, resulting with 3 kills and 1 satisfying helicopter kill, and also some kill assists and some scouting. It rounds up to 51,000 Silver Lines and just under 10,000 modification and research points. So that's it with this tank. I hope that I can get another view at this tank or another verdict in on this tank once the matchmaker has calmed down in the upcoming days or weeks. Till then, let me know in the comment section what your experience is in this tank, how it is for you to fight with this tank or against it, and probably both. And then also, as usual, please give this video a like if it did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.